And welcome back for another essential dose of the Michael Deacon program. I know you couldn't stay away for too long. I don't blame you. First time listeners out there, thanks for stopping in. The pleasure is all yours. We do hope you stick around and subscribe. This is where gold falls from the sky. Tonight we are joined by a longtime veteran here of the program, Mr. Michael Cremo. And I believe he is patiently waiting right now. And yes, we are a little late, but that happens every now and then. Let's bring in Mr. Michael Cremo, and I believe Mike is here with us too. Mike, are you out there?
Mike Hideous? Yes, I'm
there
here.
There you are, brother. Hold on one second. Let's bring in Mr. Cremo, who is patiently waiting. Michael, how are you? Or did we lose you already?
Mr. Cremo?
Mr. Cremo, how are you?
I'm doing fine here in Los Angeles. How are you?
I always forget that you are in Los Angeles, Michael. I always forget for some odd reason. Mr. Cremo, so how are you? Thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure to have you here on the program, by the way.
Well, like everybody else, I'm kind of living under restricted conditions because of the COVID thing, and I'm kind of looking forward to being able to resume what I consider to be my normal life, which it did include a lot of travel.
Right. Yeah, and I sincerely hope all is going well for you out there in Los Angeles. It's been a very chaotic year. The world has changed, and it continues to do so, Mr. Cremo. COVID is the new plague. As a result, we are dealing with a non-stop infodemic, as I like to say. And I'm quite intrigued to know your thoughts and opinions on COVID and just the year that we experienced already, sir.
Well, it's like you said, it's an experience, and I'm still trying to digest it. And one of the first things I did when this whole thing came on, it came on for me. I mean, last February I had gone on a trip to India where I spend a lot of time doing research, giving talks and things like that. And I came back to LA, and I walked into a Trader Joe's, and I was just amazed. I'd never seen anything like it. All the shelves were stripped bare of everything. Water, bread, anything. And there were hundreds of people in there, scraping up whatever was left, and I had just never seen anything like that. So one of the first things I did is I went back to Albert Camus' book, The Plague. There's kind of an existentialist author, philosopher, thinker, and it was pretty amazing. So I still haven't finished processing the whole thing. What it has done is it's given me time to finish up writing projects and things that I put off, because sometimes all the activity of traveling, speaking, meeting people, doing research, you tend to put things on the back burner that really shouldn't be there, but it's so much fun doing the other stuff, you don't get to it. So I was able to finish a book I've been working on for a while. It's kind of going through proofreading and editing now, and hopefully it'll be out later this year. I'm calling it Extreme Human Antiquity. So
nice, okay.
So that's been a more positive aspect of the whole thing.
Right. So you came back to Los Angeles and things were just insane. In other words.
I think we were all shocked when we walked into the stores.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. I had no idea you would learn of COVID in such a way. And I'm sure it's really put a dent in your momentum, Michael, since I know you do travel around a lot. And of course, Michael, I have to ask you, will you be getting the vaccine, sir?
If if it's going to prevent me from doing what I need to do, I would do it.
You might have to.
It's. I mean, everyone has to calculate the risk and the benefits for it. I mean, up to this point, nobody said it's mandatory, but you kind of get the idea that that's the way things are moving. For certain activities, to be able to enter different countries or attend certain events, maybe it's going to be something that's required. But
oh yes,
and I understand that different people can have principled differences of opinion about whether or not to take them, what the risks are. But in my personal case, calculating the risk and benefits, and considering my age, my position, everything, I probably would take it.
yes, I think it might be a good thing for you, Michael.
But I understand it's not without risk.
Oh yeah, unfortunately.
Mr. Cremo, do you have reservations concerning the vaccine at all?
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think there is. When they were first announced, because like I saw, like the letter, or form that you have to sign, and it says these are being used under emergency circumstances. In other words, they haven't undergone the full testing, the full procedure for approving things like that. That's right at the top of the paper. This is being used or administered on the basis of an emergency license or something from the CDC or whatever organization handles it. So, yeah. But at
So
the same time,
you definitely have some reservations concerning it, but you still are considering getting the shot, even if it's not mandatory at this point right now. It may be, like you said, there's a chance they may push it to be mandatory, but right now you feel that you based on what you said before, you feel that it's probably a necessity for you to get the shot, right?
It seems like that, and the thing is that if once you decide to get it, if you don't get the single shot one, it takes like 5 or 6 weeks for you to get both shots and immunity. And then say if you want to do something, if suddenly something came up, some opportunity, and you could go somewhere, but it requires, some countries, they may require it that you can enter if you have a vaccine or something like that.
Right.
Then I'd like to be ready.
Oh yeah.
And not have to start the process and wait 6 weeks or something before being able to go. I mean, like a few years ago, I had an opportunity to go to China, to a science conference in China. So I went to Beijing, but before I could go, I had to get a yellow fever vaccination. Yeah, I don't like vaccinations personally. I don't like people poking needles into me and stuff like that.
I don't think anyone does.
Sometimes it just may be part of the price one has to pay to function in the world we live in. But I can understand that there are people who, based on their calculations, think it's not an acceptable risk and would avoid it and try to convince other people to avoid it as well.
I don't even mind it, to be honest, Mr. Cremo. The fact that I don't, I'm not out and about. You know, I could order anything I want and I'll be fine. I don't even like standing in line, Mr. Cremo. I always hated that.
Michael's a bit of a hermit.
That's true. And I also noticed, Mr. Cremo, I'm not as sick as I used to be. That's another plus. I'm not.
Not as what?
I don't get as sick as I normally do.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. It's tremendous because I hated getting sick, Mr. Cremo. So, you know, I'm quite happy for the first time. I'm not dying of a cold or my nose isn't stuffy where I want to, you know, ram my head into the floor. Everything's fine.
Well, may that continue.
I hope.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if the vaccine is going to harm me, then what's the point of taking it? But then again, you know, I'm not a doctor or a health expert. I would have to advise everyone out there listening to check in with their health advisor before you think about getting the vaccine. Or if you have to, you know, some people will be required to be vaccinated for their job.
That's another thing, too.
Yeah.
So
Tremendous times.
It is sort of mandatory. In some sense of the matter, it is sort of mandatory for certain individuals to get it. I think the big question is whether or not it's going to become publicly mandatory. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but you know what I mean. Like everybody has to get it. If you
mandated, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go to a theater or a concert or travel, like Mr. Cremo said. So a lot of controversy in this thing.
Yeah.
People are rather confused.
We will see what goes on as we move forward. And Mr. Cremo, as we get started here, I believe the couple times I've talked to you, you mentioned you had a Roman Catholic sort of upbringing, correct?
Yes, I was born in a Roman Catholic family. My grandparents came from, on both my mother's and father's side, came from Italy in late 19th century or early 20th century. So they were kind of our first generation of our family. And of course, they were from Italy. They were grown people. They spoke Italian. And then there was my father's and mother's generation. They were kind of second generation Italian Americans. And some second generation Italian Americans, they kind of stayed in the neighborhood, the ethnic neighborhood, and retained a lot of knowledge of Italian and things like that. But some of them, like my father, during World War II, he went into the military, the Army Air Force, later converted into the Air Force, United States Air Force. So his career kind of took him out of the neighborhood and into the wider world. And then I was third generation, so I knew the family had an Italian Catholic heritage, and I did go to Catholic church, not to the Catholic schools. I went to the schools on the air bases, different places where I lived. So I did kind of grow up in that tradition, and I didn't really reject it or anything, but I just maybe tried to develop my spirituality in a different direction.
Right.
That I found more satisfying. I became the disciple of a guru from India. I found yoga, meditation, things like that very congenial for me.
We could even talk about
vegetarian diet.
Mr. Cremo, we could even talk about your life for hours here on end. I think you've lived an incredible and fascinating life. You've traveled the world. You've done it all. And Mr. Cremo, I must ask you, as a result of this upbringing you had, do you think that sort of resulted, as a result, do you think that that's why you sort of became so entranced with this other sort of view opposed to Catholicism? I mean, you're kind of on the opposite spectrum here now.
Well, I don't consider it that I'm opposed.
Yeah, that was probably not the right choice of words.
Catholicism.
Yes.
But, in every religious tradition that I'm familiar with, you've got a more exoteric and a more esoteric aspect to it. So there's the aspect of Catholicism that has to do with, they also had a system of meditation, contemplation, prayer, the monastic life, the mystical, the Catholic mystics, things like that. So that's one aspect. I'm kind of very attracted to that aspect of it. But then there's a more external aspect to it. You just follow some rituals and recite your catechism and things like that. And I'm not saying that's bad.
Sure.
But some people, I think it's good for people. But then there's the aspect of, like I said, the more mystical, contemplative aspect of things. And I found I had a better experience of that with this Eastern tradition. But I remember once I had gone when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, I'd gone to Europe, and then I went to Israel. I'm not Jewish, but I went there, and I'm born Italian Roman Catholic.
Oh, vey.
But
yes.
I went there to work on a kibbutz just for the experience. And it was winter time, maybe 1969. So I went to Bethlehem. We got some time off from I was with some other young people from America and Europe, and we were working at this kibbutz, as they called it, like we were picking oranges, actually. That's what we did on that kibbutz. But, we went to the group of, Europeans and Westerners. We went to Bethlehem for Christmas time. And because there had been a war there recently in 1967, there were no tourists in Bethlehem. And, we went to the Church of the Nativity. We kind of went down into this crypt where they have the actual place where Christ was born. And there were the only people there were these maybe 6 or 7 nuns from Belgium, and they were singing these Latin prayers about Christmas and the appearance of Christ and Virgin Mary and Joseph and all of that. And I had a real spiritual feeling there, because in America, Christmas is just kind of like this marathon of shopping and consuming and this and that.
Oh yeah.
It's become very materialistic.
Very
Yeah,
commercialized.
the
Yes.
biggest thing is did retail sales go up how much this year, you know?
Yeah, that's what it's all
So
about.
Yeah, sure. They start advertising for Christmas in August.
yeah, yeah, it's just a kind of like a commercial festival. But so to have that experience of being at the birthplace of Christ in Bethlehem on Christmas Eve, you know, that was, and to be in the exact place where it happened, that was kind of an amazing
Right.
experience. So, um, I, either in terms of religion or science or whatever topic we're talking about, I don't really uh, agree that anyone has a monopoly on truth, whatever it is.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the big problems that the world is facing. You know, our country is facing, the world is facing. You know, there are people with exclusive claims. I'm the only one right. My people, my religion, my country, we're the only ones who are right, and everybody else is wrong.
Yeah, I'm so glad you
Oh,
said that,
You
Mr. Cremo. It's funny
the
because I've been saying that nonstop here on the program that everyone thinks they're right and no one's wrong. That's kind of one of the main issues that we have here in America. Everyone's right and no one's ever wrong, Mr. Cremo. So it's funny you say that. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Michael. I just wanted to say, since we're on the subject, I mean, the religions, the three main religions have been at war for over 1,000 years, more than 1,000 years. There's been nothing but fighting between Judeo-Christian, or I should say Christian, the Jewish faith, and Islam. They've been fighting. Even the Jews had been fighting before the time of Christ, and so you've just got this constant barrage of groups of people saying my God is better than your God, and because of that, we're going to come and we're going to cut everybody's head off in the name of God, and that really disturbs me about mainstream religion.
Yeah, in one sense, I think America has, in theory, the right idea. You know, everyone should be free. I mean, assuming they're not harming somebody else, in some criminal way. Yeah, everyone has the right to believe in God or take this faith or that faith. And, the minorities actually have rights and, should be defended. I think it has the right idea in theory. It's just that in practice, it doesn't always work out that way. And, like you get, some conflict as a result of that. But in theory, I think the United States and other countries have, the right idea. There shouldn't be a state religion. There should be freedom of conscience, freedom of choice.
That's right.
And, I think that's a wonderful ideal. And, but I think the real basis of
I was going to say, unfortunately, not everyone thinks that way, and we've interviewed other gentlemen who have come on the program who are, hardcore Christian believers or Catholic believers, and they are stern on their belief, and when they say that everyone else is wrong and what I believe in is right, and in some cases, even their whole ideology is based on what they've come up with, not something that the religion has been based on for the last 2,000 years or 5,000 years. like they come up with new ideas and then they incorporate it into this ideology and say, well, this is what's going to happen and everybody else is wrong. There's a couple of people that Michael and I have both interviewed, and a few Michael has done on his own, and some people are just hell bent, pardon the pun, they're hell bent on believing that their way is the only way. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think one solution to that, which may be in some ways not always practical, but as if it would be like, say you have gold and it's in an ore. So an expert geologist or metallurgist will know how to extract the gold. And then you could form the gold into coins. And then you could stamp the symbols of different nations on the coins. South Africa, rand, U.S. gold dollar, British pound, and gold. You could have gold coins stamped with the symbols of different nations. Now, the real question is it gold or not? If it's gold, then it doesn't matter what symbol that you've stamped on it. If it's really gold, it should be accepted as such. Shouldn't just look at the symbol on it. I think it's the same with religions. If you've actually developed some spiritual qualities, some understanding that we're all children of the same God, and it's reflected in your life how you deal with people. If you've got that, then I think it doesn't matter what you call the system that you got it from: Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam. There's so many different faith manifestations. But if you've got that understanding, there is a source of us all, and we're all related to it. And I think that would help solve things.
Absolutely. There's so much to say, but we will move forward here from religion, but I'm sure we will get placed right back into religion as we continue this conversation. But Mr. Cremo, I must ask you, as a member of, I believe, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, would you recommend this group to anyone out there who is still, I guess, trying to find themselves on their spiritual journey, per se, Mr. Cremo?
Well, I think it's something they should definitely consider. Everyone has to make up their own minds about these things. Like, if you're going to get a smartphone, there's so many types of phones, Samsung and Apple.
I like that, yeah.
This and that.
Good analogy.
You got to pick one. Okay, pick one and live with the result. Like that's. So I did the same thing. There were a lot of options for me. Like when you go into that marketplace, of ideas and spiritual traditions and things. There are lots of options out there. I studied the options. I experienced them. And I made my choice. And one of the reasons why I made the choice was that it had this sort of non-sectarian aspect to it, in the sense that, my guru or teacher, he would often say, like the sun is shining in the sky, and you may call it this or that according to your language, but it's still the same sun shining in everybody. So no question of my son, your son, an American son, a French son, a Russian or Chinese son, shining on everybody. So God is the same. He's the creator of everything, everyone. So if you're developing love for God, love for all God's creatures, then it doesn't matter if you call yourself Christian or Hindu or Islamic or Buddhist or whatever. If you have the right attitude, then that's one thing that kind of attracted me to it. But as I said, I don't claim to have a monopoly on truth or spirituality. I try to recognize it wherever I see it, recognize it, acknowledge it, and people of all different faiths who are sincerely trying to understand these things. And so I could recommend it as definitely an option that could be considered by someone who is searching for a spiritual path.
Right. And Mr. Cremo, I must ask you, once you fully went deep down, what did your mom and dad initially think? Did they think you went crazy? My son now became a hippie. Is that what they thought at first, Mr. Cremo? I'm very curious.
That's to some extent true, or because some that can happen. Although of course, none of my mother and father are still living, but they there was some reconciliation,
yes,
you could say, some understanding that came about. But basically my motivations were, I've always, since I've been born, ever since I can remember, maybe even before I was born in this lifetime, I've always been interested in, I have these core values or ambitions. And one is the ability to express myself
right, freely,
the ability just to exist. That I'm a person, I exist, I have a right to exist. I want to be able to express myself. I want to be able to understand the real truth about things, not the superficial appearances, but what the real truth about life and the world and the universe is. I've always had that. I've always had a sense of justice and fairness. I've also had a sense of wanting to understand the nature of love.
Right.
What is true love? So those have always been my ambitions, to know things, to know what the truth is about different topics, to be free to express myself, to be able to express what I'm feeling and thinking to others if they're willing to listen. And the nature of love, ultimately. So I've been able, in the course of my life, to make some progress on those things, or to be able to live in a way that I have felt is consistent with those values and objectives and goals that I've always had.
Understood. And of course, Mr. Cremo, I think everyone is quite familiar with the NBC special, The Mysterious Origins of Man, that was first aired back in 1996, I believe. And
if
I
they were alive at the time.
right.
Probably about half the world has taken birth since then.
Exactly. And I watched it years ago and I enjoyed it. As a matter of fact, I watched it just this week and I still enjoyed it all these years later.
Yeah, I think at least the contribution that I made and my co-author, Richard Thompson,
Richard Thompson.
co-author of Forbidden Archaeology, made, I think it stands up even 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 today. Yeah, that was it's kind of interesting how that came about, my involvement in that project. My book, Forbidden Archaeology, excuse me, let's take a little sip of water here.
Go ahead, drink away. Clear your
So,
throat there.
my book, Forbidden Archaeology, came out in 1993, and it came into the hands of a lot of different people. One person was a lady named Jean Hunt, who lived in Louisiana, an elderly person at the time, and she was president of a little organization called the Louisiana Mounds Society. So she was interested in my book, Forbidden Archaeology, which documents evidence that humans like us have been existing for far longer periods of time than most scientists now accept. There's actual archaeological evidence for humans existing millions and millions of years ago. But she got the book and she called me on the phone, and she had a wonderful Southern accent. She said, "Michael, I read your book. I really like it. And you should send a copy of it to Bill Cote, who's a television producer in New York City." So I got his contact information from her, and I sent Bill Cote the book, Forbidden Archaeology. And he said, "Well, I'm in the process of making or pitching a proposal for a documentary called The Mysterious Origins of Man to NBC. And what you've written here fits perfectly into it." So he came out and with his film crew and interviewed myself and Richard Thompson, who was my co-author in Forbidden Archaeology. And then when that program aired on a Sunday evening, in prime time on the NBC television network, it caused a nationwide sensation.
Oh, yes.
The scientific community was screaming, "How could you?" They tried to organize a boycott of NBC. They tried to get the what is the federal organization?
The FCC.
Federal Communications Commission,
Right.
the FCC. They tried to get the FCC to censure and fine NBC for having shown this documentary.
That's funny.
So it really, it really made a stir at the time, and it's still echoing today.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Can you just tell some of our listeners who may not be familiar with the book that you wrote a little bit about what caused so much of the controversy on the basis of the book?
Well, the controversy is most scientists today think that humans like us first appeared on this planet less than 300,000 years ago. Actually, at the time the book was written, they were saying less than 100,000 years ago. And in the early 2000s, they said 200,000 years ago. And now they're saying 300,000 years ago. They said before that, there weren't any humans like us. There were just more primitive ape-like human ancestors, like the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, the Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Australopithecus, and eventually, some primitive apes and monkeys. So that is in all the textbooks and every school in the United States and practically every other country around the world. So what I showed in Forbidden Archaeology is actually in the textbooks today, we're not getting the complete set of facts. If you actually look, as I did, into the whole history of archaeology, you'll find that archaeologists, geologists, paleontologists, and other scientists digging into the earth have found hundreds of examples of human bones, human artifacts, and human footprints, millions of years old. But because this evidence doesn't fit the dominant paradigm, the dominant consensus in science today, that they're filtered out. These discoveries simply aren't mentioned anymore, although they're there in the original scientific literature. So I think there's a process of knowledge filtration that goes on in the world of science.
Right. There's lots of controversy surrounding what is acceptable and what isn't. You find out later if you look into the Smithsonian. And by the way, Mr. Cremo, I must ask you, and I think I've asked you this before, were you close friends with Richard by any chance?
For many years, yes. We worked together. He was a co-religionist. He was a member of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness.
Right.
And he was involved in Bhaktivedanta Institute, which was the science studies branch of that society. He was one of its founding members. He was like my mentor.
Oh, okay, I see.
Science and Krishna consciousness. And we worked together to make the first project that we worked on together was a magazine style publication about 64 pages long that gave our basic positions on all the major scientific questions, like the origin of the universe, the origin of consciousness, the origin of the first living thing, the origin of species, including the human species, and so on. So we put that publication together, and then we decided to take each section of the magazine and turn it into a book. And he gave me the archaeology, the human origins section to work on. So I spent 8 years doing the research and writing under his direction and supervision of the book, that became Forbidden Archaeology. So I would say for a period of at least 10 or 15 years, we worked very closely together.
Ah, I see. Yes. You guys were actually, then you guys were close friends. And the only reason why I ask is because sometimes people put out these books and you have these co-authors and these two individuals don't actually even know each other. There's no real history there.
Yeah, I think in my introduction to the book Forbidden Archaeology, I kind of explained what our relationship was, and the different contributions we each made to the writing of that book. So I've explained that in the introduction, the nature of our relationship.
Yes, sir. And of course, we mentioned the criticism that you received, severe criticism from both advocates for both sides. And of course, it's very well known that Ken Ham, also someone that you caught the attention of very early on, Mr. Cremo.
Yes, but the reaction wasn't all negative. There were some grudging acknowledgement of some positive aspects of the book, from some scholars. I would say within the academic and scientific world, there were three basic groups that reacted to Forbidden Archaeology. And one thing to consider is to get any reaction at all, positive or negative, is pretty amazing. Because one thing they can do is just ignore something.
Absolutely.
If it can't be ignored, then you have to criticize. But I found basically three groups. There's one group that I call the fundamentalist materialists, or the fundamentalist Darwinists, and they're kind of against the book and everything that it represents. But for more or less ideological reasons, not for purely scientific reasons, but because of some prior commitment they have to atheism or materialism or whatever. So they didn't want to hear about it, didn't want anybody else to hear about it. If I was scheduled to give a lecture at a university, they try to get it canceled. So that's one group. Then there was another group, a bigger group, I would say, that accepted the current Darwinian theory of evolution, but for more or less scientific reasons, which meant they were willing to listen to alternatives. And I think that's important, because if ideas are going to change, the very first requirement is that people be willing to listen to a new idea or new evidence. And it's people in that group who were inviting me to give talks at universities, who were approving, accepting papers that I submitted for presentation at major international scientific conferences, like meetings of the World Archaeological Congress, for example, or they would invite me to speak at leading scientific institutions like the Royal Institution in London, the Russian Academy of Sciences in Moscow, and many others. So then there's a small group of academics and scientists who actually agreed with me. And they're small in number. I admit that. Those. So, yeah, basically those three kinds of reactions.
Right. Right. That must have been a wild time for you, Mr. Cremo. It's 1996. Your special just ran on NBC. You must have been quite thrilled right after that, Mr. Cremo.
Yeah. I had a plan right from the beginning, even when I was writing the book and before it came out. I knew that Forbidden Archaeology would cause controversy in the academic and scientific world. So I sent it out for review to all the major scientific publications, journals that deal with archaeology and human origins and history of science. And there was a response. And my plan was, and this actually happened, then to bring out a shorter edition of the book, because Forbidden Archaeology is 900 pages long, and it's directed towards an academic audience, really. Although even people who aren't academics have bought thousands and thousands of copies of it. But we brought out a shorter edition, an abridged edition, about 300 pages long, titled The Hidden History of the Human Race. And we use even the negative quotes, we put them on the book along with some positive quotes from
Good
some
job.
scientists.
Yeah, I like that.
And it kind of took off. I started getting invited on radio and television shows. And then the book started being picked up by publishers in different countries. At the present moment, the book has been printed in 26 different languages, including Chinese.
That's wild. Yeah.
Mainland China. It's pretty amazing.
It is. I mean,
so in a lot of these countries, I started getting invitations to come on lecture tours there of universities, get on national television, national radio.
Mr. Cremo, you wrote this book in 1993, and we're still talking about it in 2021.
Well, yeah.
Wild.
An example of that, like there's this science studies professor. His name is William Lynch, and he wrote a book last year in 2020. He called it Minority Report. And many of your listeners will be familiar with that title, Minority Report. It was a story by this author named Dick, and it was turned into a movie with Tom Cruise. It's about how the police in the future, they'll have these kind of like psychics working with them who can see into the future and see who's going to commit a crime in the future. So if you've got three of these psychics and at least two of them agree, then the police will pick up that person in the present, although he's not committed any crime yet. He's going to commit it in the future, so they arrest him. But sometimes the person who's arrested will ask to see the report of the one psychic or viewer, whatever they call them, who had the minority report, not the majority report.
Right.
And so this professor's book was about how minority opinion is treated in the world of science. And he gave me as an example. In 2020, he wrote, in 1993, I met Michael Cremo at a conference about history and philosophy of science. And we talked at that time, and then he kind of explained, he spent several pages explaining my approach and what he regarded as the strengths and shortcomings of it.
Was this man Russian?
Like you said,
what was this man Russian, by the way?
Huh?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I meant to ask, is this man Russian by any chance?
No. He's a professor. His name is William Lynch.
Oh, okay. I'm just asking.
He's at a university in the United States. But 20 years later, 30 years later, he's still talking about a meeting that he had with me. And he's using the book Forbidden Archaeology as kind of a classic example in science studies of a minority opinion. So, anyways, that's a very lengthy commentary on your point that, even though the book's been around for a long time, people are still talking about it.
Oh, yes.
Like it came out yesterday.
Oh, yeah. It's a very fascinating book for those that have not checked it out all these years. You could still pick it up and still be blown away. And going back into ancient times, Mr. Cremo.
Michael, I'm sorry. I just before you get into that topic, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Okay. I have to ask this. Forgive me for being the devil's advocate, but you mentioned earlier that you're a believer in religion and you were pretty much born and raised Roman Catholic. Am I correct in that?
That's right.
Okay. So when you wrote this
baptized and confirmed.
Okay, so when you wrote this book, stating that your belief that that humanity started far beyond what science believes it started from. I'm sure you would agree with me that in the Bible it states in the Christian and I'm pretty sure the Jewish Old Testament that life started 5,000 years ago with Adam and Eve, who basically were walking the earth with dinosaurs at that time, and Adam and Eve populated the whole planet from them. So my question to you is, is this something that affects you with your scientific belief? I mean, how do you balance this? I mean, obviously, a lot a lot of people who are religious will believe one thing and one thing only, and science
Mhm.
will believe one thing based on fact and what they can prove factually. So, where do you fall in with the belief of the Bible stating that humanity started about 5,000 years ago, where Adam and Eve were walking the earth with dinosaurs, and then coming up with an idea that humanity started possibly 300,000 years ago or more, maybe a million, who knows?
Uh, I believe the evidence for human presence goes right back to the very beginnings of the history of life on Earth. I think our universe is not just an accident. We're not just accidental creatures who have evolved by natural selection, but purely material elements in an accidental universe. I think the universe was created by God for a purpose, and that is to uh, deliver or raise the level of spirituality of, of the souls that are in this world. And the best vehicle for that is the human body. So if the universe is manifested by God's mercy as an opportunity for us to perfect our lives by accepting a spiritual teaching of the Bible in this case, then to me, how I generally relate to people who accept Adam and Eve, because Adam and Eve were manifested in the beginning, were pretty close to it, during those days of creation. What I say to people of that persuasion is whether we think the earth is a few thousand years old or a few billion years old, then we've been around since the beginning and we didn't evolve from apes and monkeys. And we can talk about the age of the earth, whether it's thousands of years or or a few billion years, as I think. We can have that discussion a little bit later on, but at least we agree on these things. Humans have been around since the beginning, and they didn't evolve from apes and monkeys. So that's how I generally relate to that question. And I will say there are old Earth creationists who accept a very ancient age for the Earth in Catholicism and other Christian denominations.
So what do you say to an atheist who may approach you at one of your conferences or wherever on the street or something, and they ask you, like something like I just asked you, where the controversy between what the Bible states and what science tends to factually believe based on mathematics and scientific study? I mean, what do you say to somebody who says, "Oh, I don't believe in God, and I think that science is the answer." How do you respond to something like that?
Well, if that's their honest opinion, then I respect it. I respect the right of each individual to make
Fair
up
enough.
their mind about these things. But where I would draw the line is if they try to force or compel somebody else to accept their opinion and give up theirs. That's kind of where I draw the line, where, like if somebody honestly thinks they've looked at the evidence, they've considered it, they've looked at all the different points of views, and to them, atheism is the idea that makes the most sense, and that's their personal conclusion, that's how they want to see things, fine.
Right. Well,
Fair
Mr.
enough.
Cremo,
But
there's...
the difficulty comes in when they organize and somehow or other politically they convince government
Yes.
to enforce their idea only and exclude other ideas from the education system or the scientific support from the government, then you've got a problem. If somebody uses the instrument of government to enforce under pain of penalty their idea, over every other idea, give them a government enforced monopoly, then I've got a problem with that.
Right. And Mr. Cremo, some people fully and firmly believe that the earth is flat. So, it doesn't really matter what you believe. Some people will not be convinced otherwise. What a world.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And
well,
go ahead.
A lot depends upon, whether ultimately we respect the right of an individual to have, in other words, we talk about it in our Bill of Rights. Like I said, these modern democracies, they tend to have the right idea. Yes, there should be freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Government shouldn't impose on it. There should be separation of church and state.
Yes, sir.
There was an interesting philosopher of science, Paul Feyerabend. He's originally from Germany, but he came to the United States and taught at University of California at Berkeley, I think it was, and Stanford and other places. But he wrote a book called Science in a Free Society. He said that just like there should be separation from church and state, there should be separation of science and state.
Well, I don't disagree with you on that.
Do you think it's just so weird to ask you this, but based on your writings, to me it seems that you wrote more scientifically than from a religious aspect. Do you believe one over the other? Do you believe that the Bible, when the Bible states that humanity started 5,000 years ago, do you believe that, or do you believe more scientifically that humanity may have started 3 million years ago?
Well, there are different interpretations of the Bible. Some people give the short days of creation, and other people have this long day of creation. So even within the Christian denominations, there's not total agreement on the age of the earth.
Right. A lot of times they'll say that 7 days was 7 million years or something like that, or 7 billion years.
Yeah,
I understand that part. I was just
like
curious from your point of view as a being a Christian, having grown up. I'm Italian too. I was born and raised Roman Catholic. But for me, science is everything. Science doesn't really. There's always room to make adjustments with science. That's what science is all about. There's no absolution in science unless it is proven with mathematical numbers. So
yes,
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because that way we can go
Well,
into the next segment here. One of the questions I did want to ask you, Mr. Cremo, is what really fascinates me, Mr. Cremo, are the Sumerians. You know, how could these ancient men, these brute like savages in this small region in the, what is it, the Fertile Crescent, they just magically created written language, astronomy, oh my god, I hit the mic, and mathematics, and so forth. Was ancient man really that clever, or did they get helped somehow, some way? What do you think, Mr. Cremo?
well, all of the above. They could have had help. I mean, the whole idea of religion is based on that. That humanity needs help in understanding things. So sometimes God sends a representative or inspires someone. Uh, Many of the early scientists, like Newton, for example, was a very devoted religious person. I don't think he was a Catholic. I think he was Protestant, but God featured a lot in his work. If you look at all of his writings, and there was there've been other scientists as well who have had a religious or spiritual inspiration for their work. Even Darwin, who wrote about the theory of evolution, he accepted that after even in his book, he wrote about how in the beginning God may create one or two first living things, and then from that, then everything else unfolds. So, but in general, I regard myself as a person looking for the truth, and wherever I can find the truth, whether it's from some spiritual or religious source or from some scientific source, I just want the truth.
You just want the truth. Right. Understood. That's very reasonable. And by the way, I'm curious if you have crossed paths with Eric von Daniken at any time.
I have.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
It was kind of interesting because, like after Forbidden Archaeology came out, I started getting invitations to speak at UFO conferences.
Mm.
And I kind of wondered, well, what's the connection between archaeology and UFOs? I think what appealed to them was the knowledge filter aspect of what I was saying. That sometimes archaeologists and other scientists might find evidence for extreme human antiquity, but because it doesn't go along with the dominant theories in archaeology these days, it sort of gets filtered out. So I think the UFO researchers kind of experience the same thing. That yes, there's evidence for UFOs. It comes from oftentimes very good sources, trained military pilots, radar operators, police.
It's quite popular.
Airline
It's quite popular these days now, Mr. Cremo, as it always has been, but I always had noticed there was like a cycle in terms of popularity, and right now we are experiencing that cycle return again. We are seeing UFOs being talked about on all these popular media platforms now.
Yeah, so I was invited by Eric von Daniken to speak at a conference he organized in Switzerland.
Nice.
Actually, Richard Thompson and I both were invited, and we went. I would speak at some of the same conferences as Eric von Daniken. We do have a relationship.
A friendly
I
rapport.
mean, not extensive, but he knew who I was. I knew who he was. And,
Nice. Okay. And I must ask you, what exactly is your opinion on the very popular TV show Ancient Aliens?
well, I appeared in several of the initial episodes. I appeared in what they called the pilot, the very first shows that they showed on the History Channel.
Right.
And then I was involved, I was interviewed for several of the early seasons, first, second, third, and so on. At a certain point, they stopped inviting me, and I think that's because I was I was trying to get across an expanded conception of what it means to be an extraterrestrial, because one concept which I regard as too restrictive is that it just means other flesh and blood creatures from other planets in our solar system or some other solar system that come to Earth somehow and interact with the flesh and blood people on Earth. I expand the concept of extraterrestrial to include beings like angels, gods, ultimately a monotheistic God, and to me, each one of us as a conscious spiritual being is also an extraterrestrial, because the soul that inhabits each body, as I see it, is not from this earth. It's from some other place, some other higher dimension of reality. So I thought the series, I haven't seen all the recent seasons of it, but I originally thought it was a good idea, and it kind of showed how the media had opened up. Back in the 1990s, when Mysterious Origins of Man came out, the broadcast networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS, they had a stranglehold
Right.
on the visual media. But now there are just thousands and thousands of channels people can get, so it's kind of opened up, and maybe the audience is smaller, but there is an opportunity to present these alternative ideas. So I think that's positive.
I think so too. And by the way, before we finish up with Egypt here, one man comes to mind, and that is Mr. Zahi Hawass. Depending on who you are, you might not have either liked him or you did like him. His his reputation has always followed him. What exactly is do you have any experience, any run-ins or anything with Mr. Zahi Hawass, Mr. Cremo?
Well, I think there are researchers like John Anthony West, Robert Bauval, Graham Hancock, and others who have kind of focused on the more recent history of humanity and human civilization. Going back over the past 50,000 years, let's say. My own research has been focused on the deeper history of the human race, going back tens of millions, even hundreds of millions of years. So I haven't had I haven't had any dealings, personal dealings with Zahi Hawass. But those who are dealing trying, like Robert Schoch, trying to show that the Sphinx is maybe 11 or 12,000 years old rather than the 5,000 or 6,000 years old most scientists now accept, or people who are trying to show through the alignment of the pyramids to the different constellations that it's much older than they now think. So researchers who are dealing with that particular topic, they would have, I because I read all their books, and I stay in touch a little bit with what's going on, not just with my own work, but the work of others. I know secondhand, you could say, about Mr. Hawass,
Understood.
who is
Understood.
the antiquities, head of the antiquities department in Egypt. So anybody who wants to do any work in Egypt, any research, excavation, they've got to go through him.
You got to go through him.
And apparently sometimes there's difficulties.
Very difficult.
There have been.
Yes, sir. I have his cell phone number. I plan to bother him again very soon. We'll see how that works out. But yes, Robert Bauval, great book. He has some great books on Orion's Belt. That's where, he talks about the alignment there. But furthermore, I forgot to ask you this question here. Going back to what we were discussing here, what do you think the possible motive could be for a scientist for wanting to sort of keep this kind of evidence suppressed? What would they have to gain for that, Mr. Cremo?
This is something that philosophers of science and historians of science have really looked into. And what they find is that sometimes theoretical preconceptions can influence how scientists treat different categories of evidence that come to their attention. Because ultimately, science, according to this point of view, is a social activity. And if you're educated, you go through an education system where the authority, the expert, tells you, this is our current state of knowledge, this is what the general consensus is now. And when you encounter things that are outside the consensus, you tend to think, well, that really doesn't fit in with science as I'm being taught it. So that's one answer to your question. Another answer to your question is that there's power considerations. If somebody has monopoly power, in a certain situation, they don't want to give it up very easily. Like if one political party has a monopoly on the political life of a city or a county or a state or a nation, if they're in the majority, they want to keep the majority. They want to keep their monopoly on having access to the levers of power. And if one company has a monopoly in a certain sector of the economy, it wants to keep the competition out. It wants to keep its position of dominance. If one country has a monopoly on the position of military superpower, wants to keep its position, it wants to keep rivals down. So it's just natural that if a group has a monopoly, a government enforces a monopoly in the education system and scientific institutions, then it wants to keep its position and power. So I think it's something everyone can understand. And how these groups treat their competitors who are in the minority, that is a very important question in democratic societies. Whether we're talking about minority opinions in science, minority political parties, minority ethnic groups, minority religions, it's a question. The fair treatment of minorities becomes a very important question in democracies.
Right. Mike, were you going to say something there?
No.
Oh, I thought you were going to chime in here.
No, I think I hit the microphone as well.
Understood. Understood. My goodness, but yes, Mr. Cremo, I could talk to you for another hour quite easily here. I'm not quite sure how much time you have left to talk here, but
Well, we
mhm.
we started at 6:30 my time,
Oh
and
my,
it's what, eight now.
it's 8 now.
I can go another half hour. That would be 2 hours. Is that okay?
That's fine with me. We could talk a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
We
So
could.
let's talk for another 25 or 30 minutes,
I
and
have to.
then I'll have to wrap it up.
Yes, sir. I have to ask you, if I recall correctly, there was a discovery of hominins who were walking across a Greek island that was covered in volcanic ash about, what, 5.7 million years ago. What was that? Was that a legitimate story, Mr. Cremo?
What? Now, tell me that one again. I didn't catch the first part.
I had recalled there was some researchers who discovered hominins. They were walking across a Greek island that was covered in volcanic ash about 5.7 million years ago. I had read about this.
Yes, that
Hmm.
was a story that came out, like you said, just a few years ago.
Yes, sir.
So I looked into that. I wrote about that case in a column that I wrote for Atlantis Rising magazine. I used to do a column. I did it for many years. It was called The Forbidden Archaeologist. So when that news came out, I kind of wrote a column about it. Now, the interesting thing about the footprints that the scientists found in the
Oh, that's
layers
what
of
you're talking about.
ash,
Oh, okay. I
uh,
remember that.
they
I'm sorry.
they
I just got
were,
excited.
some of them appeared to be human in in shape. So that's what drew my attention to it. That, you couldn't really say. I mean, without having the skeletal remains. I mean, you could say, well, maybe there was some kind of hominin, human ancestor that had feet pretty much like modern human feet. Uh, but I think that possibility had to be considered.
It's pretty wild.
So that's what attracted me to that particular case.
Oh, yes. And not to forget the mention of the Paluxy River out in Texas. Another
Yeah,
very
well,
interesting case of a human footprint, by the way, that was found there, Mike, and it was discovered close by a dinosaur sort of print.
I remember that
yeah, I
too.
had
I
heard
remember
about
seeing
that
those.
case, but I did not include it in Forbidden Archaeology because the main scientist, Dr. Henry Morris Jr., I think he was a Christian creationist, scientist, and researcher. He he was the main one who was promoting those cases. But at a certain point, he wrote a letter to a scientific journal called Nature, which is regarded by many scientists as one of the world's leading scientific publications. He wrote a letter to Nature saying that he renounced his own previous opinion,
I
and
see.
he thought the footprint was not that of a human being, but it was a dinosaur footprint that had been eroded so that it looked like a human footprint. So on that basis, I didn't include it in my book, Forbidden Archaeology. But since that time, a student of archaeology, a graduate student of archaeology in Texas, had gotten in touch with me and said the students liked, the book Forbidden Archaeology, and asked if it was a lady, if she could do anything in Texas to help with my research. And I told her, you can go to that Paluxy place
Yeah.
and have a look around there and tell me what you think. as an archaeologist about those alleged footprints. So she went there, and during the time she was there, they were doing some new excavation at the dinosaur track site, and they were breaking up layers of rock, to clear off a new surface. And when they did that, they found new human-like prints next to the dinosaur prints. And this archaeology student that went up there and visited, she reported back to me, they looked like they're human to me. And she sent me a lot of documentation. So I'm going to be dealing with that case and in my new book, which should be out later this year.
Nice.
Extreme Human Antiquity.
Okay.
So,
I didn't even know you had a new book coming out, Michael.
Yeah, like I said, because of being confined to one place,
Oh yeah,
I've been able to finish up, some projects that I probably should have finished up a long time ago.
Yeah, that's one of the pluses.
Get distracted
by life.
All the travel.
I think we've all had the opportunities to clean out all our closets, drawers, finish projects we haven't, that we put off for years with this last year of being in solitude.
Yeah. So I've kind of turned that book over, being edited. I'll have to select illustrations for it, pictures, but manuscript is done, and it should be out later this year.
Will you be mentioning anything about the Vedic texts by any chance?
Not in that book, other than to say that they were the inspiration for it. Because basically what I do in that type of book is I explain, I can't expect archaeologists and other scientists to accept a statement from the Vedas as evidence of any kind.
No, of course
not.
What
I can do is I can make a hypothesis. If what is explained in the Vedic text about human history is true, then we should expect to find reports of scientists discovering evidence for humans who existed millions of years ago. And I show that such reports are there, and leave it up to whoever reads the book to make up their mind about them. But there are other books that I've written, like Human Devolution, a Vedic alternative to Darwin's theory, in which I do go more into the Vedic teachings as a background to the research that I did on those books, which deal more with the idea of that a human being is not just a machine made of molecules, but is composed of, yes, a gross material body made of chemical elements, but beyond that, a subtle mental body with some very unusual powers. Some would call them paranormal powers, like remote viewing and things like that. And then beyond that, there's a conscious self. You could call it the soul if you're going to use religious terminology, but I tend to call it a conscious self. That is the most essential part of our being. So it's more about consciousness and the mind and things like that.
Right. And as soon as you said that, Mr. Cremo, I instantly remembered why exactly I even mentioned a Russian, by the way. The reason why I mentioned a Russian earlier to you in this conversation was due to the fact that the Russians out there during the 1970s, the Soviet, they were heavily into mind readers of sorts, psychic spies.
Yeah, America was too.
Oh yes.
The CIA and the military agencies contracted with organizations like Stanford Research Institute, where you had people like Stefan Schwartz and others who were involved in running remote viewing projects for
ESP.
the United
Right.
States intelligence services.
ESP, Mike.
I saw a program on that once where they had hired, the Americans had hired psychics with ESP to try to solve some crimes, as well as try to even win some wars, I believe.
Right. Project Stargate, Mike.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, from like 72 to
Yep.
probably early 90s is when they disbanded.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
success they had.
admitted. That's what they've admitted to.
Mm-hmm. Interesting stuff, to be honest. And by the way, just a quick question here, a very curious question for you, Mr. Cremo. Just if you have to take a guess, with the institutional archaeology so based against, these alternative points of view, how do you think you've become so successful, Mr. Cremo, in your opinion, through your books and your lectures?
Well, within archaeology and anthropology and other differences, there are two influences at work. One comes from philosophy called positivism, which meant that, okay, there's matter operating according to material laws which can be discovered by science, and on that basis we come to certain conclusions, and there's about an independently existing past, and they're influential, but they're not totally alone. There's another group that's influenced by what we can broadly call postmodern ideas, which emphasize that, well, we don't have direct access to the real existing past. We're always approaching the past based on our present society, our present ideas, our present biases, and things like that, which means that there might be, and there can be, and there are multiple views of the past. And that is a dominant, or you say subdominant, group among archaeologists and anthropologists, and it also extends to another aspect of these things, is that many archaeologists understand that their discipline was used during the colonial period to suppress alternative, other worldviews in Asia, Africa, everywhere, South America, North America. So there's a recognition that different wisdom traditions in different parts of the world, they may have a different concept of the past. And this gets into like respect for indigenous people, their views of the past, like the Australian Aboriginals, the Native American Indians, Pacific Islanders. In other words, there's a group within archaeology that is willing to consider alternative ideas with roots in other cultures.
I see.
So I would say, because of that element. And I think another thing is that a lot of researchers really don't try to deal with the mainstream scientific community, whether they're historians or anthropologists or archaeologists. I have tried to stay in touch with them, so I don't compromise my ideas, but I think I have studied and tried to put things in terms that they understand in terms of their discipline. And therefore, I've been welcome to make presentations at their professional gatherings, and they review my books. Not always giving positive endorsement, but saying, well, yeah, there's something to be considered here, something we should be open to. So I think for that reason, I've been able to get some access. But what I try to do is stay in touch with all the groups that are interested in these questions related to our human identity, because whoever controls the concept of identity actually is able to control the values, the objectives, the goals that a person has. You know, for example, if I'm convinced I'm an American man, then I behave like that. You know, so I try to stay in touch with all of the groups, you know, the scientific community, the alternative science world, the paranormal researchers, the UFO, alien, extraterrestrial groups, spiritual and religious groups. I try to stay in touch with all of them.
You try to stay on top,
because
no
I think
doubt.
they're all part of the renegotiation of our picture of who we are, and where we should be going.
Yes, I'm with you on that. And going back to the Vedic texts, I was just curious to ask you, you know, we could spend another hour easily talking about that. Mike, I know you're not ready for another hour of that.
Well, I've got to get up early tomorrow morning for
yes.
a Zoom meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, I was just going to finish up this interview with you, and thank you tremendously for being a part of the program here, Mr. Cremo. If you feel like we have left no stone unturned, definitely plug anything you'd like, Mr. Cremo.
Well, if you feel that there are some stones that we haven't turned over, then you can get in touch with my publicist, who I think you've been in touch with, Lori.
Lori, yes.
And whenever you think it's appropriate, and we can continue the discussion.
Yes, sir. I would love to have you back on, maybe to promote your new book.
Yeah, that'll give me some incentive to try to get it out there.
Yes, sir. That'd be lovely. So, yes, go ahead, Michael, and plug anything you'd like before we cut you loose here.
Well, thank you very much for having me on again.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking forward to the next time.
Oh, yes. And, of course, thank you and thank Lori for helping set this up.
Yeah, and for all your listeners, thanks for listening in.
Awesome. It's an honor and pleasure to speak to you once again, Mr. Cremo, and we will do it again on the other side.
Have a good night.
Okay, Michael. This Michael is signing off.
Yes, Michael. Take care. Good night.
Okay.
Bye-bye, sir.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
You got it.
All right. Take care.
And there he goes. That was the one and only Mr. Cremo. That was fun.
Quite interesting.
Did you like that?
It was interesting.
It was very interesting.
To say the very least.
There's a lot to say and to ask. I had so many other questions to get into here.
Yeah. I could definitely tell the tone of your voice and the intensity of your listening that you were totally into it.
I'm always into this sort of thing. It's because it really trips me out, to be honest. I can't talk about these sort of things sober completely. It scares the shit out of me. I don't know why.
What frightens you? I mean, what seems to trouble you in this subject?
Well,
And which subject are we talking about
just everything.
specifically?
Just I really want to know human origins. I want to know how we came to be.
Oh, I
That
agree with
that
you.
just trips me out every time I think about it.
Me too, Michael. And not to get off the topic, but it's some of the things that fascinate me, along with humanity and the origin of humanity and species and our Earth, is, for example, I'm fascinated by meteorites that come in
Right.
and hit our ground, and also dinosaur bones. And those are two things on my kick the bucket list that I
Yeah,
intend
you're
on
into that.
finding. Yeah, and it's all because it's like it's history. It's all about this mysterious thought on where everything started. It's such a mystery.
It really is. It really is. He revealed a lot in that interview, in our little
Did
chat
he?
here. I
Now
think
you
so.
spoke with him once before?
Yeah, I've talked to him before. I've had him on the show, I think maybe 3 times already.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I'm
I
still blown away by him every time he comes on here.
Sure. How old is he? He sounds like an older man.
He's up there.
Is he?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how old he is, but he is up there in age. Let's find out.
Is he a professor or anything, or just an author?
Author, archaeologist,
Oh, so he's
researcher.
done. Oh, okay, so he's done actual archaeology as well.
I believe he has. He's a researcher, but I think he actually has been out there in the field. It says right here that he's 72 years old.
Ah, I wonder if he knows Indiana Jones.
He might. But yes, Lilith in the chat says, what difference would it make and how would you know you had the correct answer? Well, that's a good point there, Lilith. It really doesn't make much of a difference to some extent, but my curious mind still wants to know.
I think as science progresses, uh, as it does every single day, I think we will.
Science changes, that's true.
It does change. That's one of the main things about science, is that it's open for interpretation and change. For example, Michael, I've been keeping an eye on what the rovers find on Mars, because I have a funny feeling that they just might find microbes that are surviving on this planet. Today I watched footage of that was shot yesterday on Mars, of actual clouds just passing over the Mars landscape. It was just so weird.
Nice. Very
And
nice.
last night I was looking at the planet from my driveway, just looking at it because it was right next to the moon on the right side, and you could just tell it was there. And what I'm getting at is the fascination of knowing where life comes from. Um, that I have a real funny feeling that in our lifetime we are going to hear
We'll
scientists
find out.
say we're going to find out that there is life on other existing on other planets.
You think we'll have a disclosure of sorts?
Well, not disclosure, because we still don't know where they came from, but I have no doubt in my mind that we are not special. I do not, and when I say that, I think there could be other forms of intelligent life.
What if there are people out there that are special ed?
The little yellow spaceship.
They're special to me.
I don't know,
Yes,
but
sir.
I'm sure you would agree with me that there's the possibility that we've advanced so far in just 100 years. In fact, less than that, probably 70 to 80 years in science, and the ability now to travel to the moon and to Mars. We've gotten the Voyagers all the way out in interstellar space at this point. It's gone beyond our solar system. We in our lifetime, I think that the planets that we get to, such as Europa, even Mars, and the other moons around Saturn, and like Titan and Jupiter, we may just be able to come up with the machinery to get to these locations and actually find microbe life.
Right. Right. So, early on in the interview, I told him I was blown away, about what ancient man was able to accomplish. If you left me alone in the woods, for example, I would be in some serious trouble. I'd be screwed. And these people out in the Middle East, basically, Mike, the Sumerians, they created language and mathematics and irrigation.
Sumeria, correct me if I'm wrong, Sumeria was in Iran, like
right.
present day Iran, right?
Iraq. Mm-hmm.
Iraq or Iran?
Iraq.
Okay.
You got to say it the proper way.
Iraq.
Yeah, or else you get shit on.
Iraq.
Yeah, there you go.
Iraq.
So, if you go back and look at all this stuff, it's very fascinating stuff.
Absolutely.
Stuff that trips me out that I can't look at sober.
Yes, stuff like this really fascinates me. And it's sad because I wasn't interested when I was a boy, learning science and all that stuff in school. But now I'm just so blown away by it.
You're in.
Not only the human history of humanity and animals and all that and the planet, but as well space and solar systems and galaxies. That just fascinating.
Do you think he got upset with me when I asked him if his parents thought he was a hippie at first?
I think he laughed. I thought I heard him laugh.
I think he liked that.
I gotta say though, I was really confused, and this is no disrespect to Mr. Cremo. I really had a problem understanding the difference between the belief in the Bible and the scientific viewpoints on where humanity began. Because on one hand, the Bible is stating that God created man 5,000 years ago, give or take, and that Adam and Eve were literally walking the earth in harmony, so to speak.
I'm not sure he takes the Bible literally.
That's what I was trying to get from him.
Yeah, because he's into the Vedic text. He's into Eastern philosophy and religion, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about further. But we ran out of time.
Right.
But there's so much to talk about in terms of these Vedic texts from India, and what evidence does he see, and what are they about, and where do they exactly come from? There's so much shit to ask him.
I am unaware of what the Vedic text from India is. Can you explain that?
There's a lot. That's going to take another
well,
30
in a
minutes.
nutshell, what is it? Like, what did they find?
What did they find? There's all kinds of shit. There's I know it's hard to really summarize it for you, but it's a part of Hinduism, in other words.
Oh, okay.
That's basically what it is. But there's 4 Vedas.
All right.
Yeah, I would have to it would take me an hour to explain to you.
Oh, okay. I'll what's it called? Beta what?
The Vedic text.
Spell that for me.
VEDIC.
TEXT.
Right. VEDIC. Mm-hmm.
I will look that up.
And it's been passed down centuries.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. You got to look into it.
When you say passed down, when you say centuries, do you mean like millennial or just centuries?
Probably centuries.
Okay.
Trying to get technical here, Mike? What are you, some expert now?
It's Professor Hideous.
Professor Mike Hideous here now. Oh, yes. But we didn't really get to cover everything we wanted here, but that's okay. We'll bring him back on and we'll ask him more questions about do dinosaurs still predate all evidence of humans? I mean, we could have gone there.
Yeah, well, depends on who you talk to, I guess, but
Or could it have been a satanic plot, Mike? That's what some early Christians thought too. Remember that?
always those damn Satanists. Yeah,
They
yeah,
put the bones there, remember?
yeah.
Hmm.
Can you imagine?
Oh boy.
I was always under the impression that when when people found them 1,000 years ago, even maybe 500 years ago and before, that they believed that they were dragons. You
Right.
know, the mythological dragon, or even demons for that matter, uh, depending on what like time zone people were talking about.
Yeah,
But
they
I would
believed in that.
imagine that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, yeah, they believed in that for sure.
Sure, and you could imagine that if by chance the medieval knights, back in the 1,000 years ago, if they had come across the bones of a large beast,
Yeah,
they must have thought it was a dragon because that
or a
was the
dragon.
belief, the
Hmm.
mythological creature back then.
That's
Although
right.
they may have thought it was real.
I'm sure they had a misunderstanding of a lot of things back then. I mean, back then they thought the Earth was flat.
Sure. And if you
So,
saw a comet in the sky, I mean, it had a meaning to it. They, you know,
by the way,
crazy
early
things.
on in the interview, you mentioned Christianity, Mike, and I wanted to so badly interrupt and say to you, Mike, and to Mr. Cremo, that you have Christians today who are so Christian they are almost becoming Muslim.
Okay. Specify what exactly do you mean
A
when you
lot
say
of
that?
the Christians, the ones that are very hardcore right wingers, they want to
Mhm.
become Muslim so they could kick homosexuals off of roofs.
Yeah.
It's coming to
Yeah.
that point. I mean, they will go that deep where they will become Muslim. Like
Yeah. I mean, look,
it's getting there.
there are Muslim priests, or what do you call it? Imams,
Hyman,
hymen. I think they're called imams.
Iman,
Uh, they're like a rabbi or a priest. They go to
Imus,
prisons. Imus in the morning.
Don
Uh,
Imus.
they go to these prisons and they actually recruit prisoners, so to speak, for lack of a better term. They recruit prisoners into the Islamic faith. Um, a lot of prisoners tend to uh, they find some connection with it because you can marry multiple women. You can the woman is submissive to the man. The man
It
has
starts
all the
off it starts off as a good idea, but then it ends up with a headache.
or your head getting chopped off, one or the
Well,
other.
that too. But imagine being married to 72 women.
Oh well,
What
that
a
in
what a
itself,
fucking
that's all.
what a fucking mess.
Oh my God, could you
It's
imagine?
awful being married to one. You want more. What the fuck is wrong with you?
And then I
Jesus.
hear that when like women are all together, they tend to get their menstrual cycle all at the same time. Could you
All
imagine
right, let's bleed together.
that?
We're
It's not only
cycling
that.
together.
I want ice cream
Ice cream and chocolate, yes. Fun for all.
now.
By the way, Mike, I did not hit the sound effect that this is actually round 2 of the program.
All right.
I totally forgot. I am falling behind here. I guess
Uh,
because, I'm so fascinated with ancient antiquities and such. But yes, this is round 2 of the program. There's the bell. So yes, welcome to round 2 of the program. And this is where we sort of let our hair down. Oh, I popped the mic there. I'm sorry. If I had
yeah,
long hair, this is where I would let it down. But Mike, you have the long hair here.
it's been down, brother.
It's been down. Okay, so you are
Been
ready
down.
for action.
I am.
Time is fading fast here on the show. Every second, every moment. We've got to make it last, Mike.
Yeah. And some people, some people more than others.
That's right. And now, before we shut it down here tonight, we've got some emails to read, general banter to go through. I think there's a few mean ones in there, by the way, Mike.
Uh-oh.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
I'm excited about that. I've noticed I've drawn plenty of heat, especially with people online, on Twitter, on all sorts of places. I learned if I don't engage with people in the way that they wanted and expected, holy shit, the world's over.
Yeah, well, that's the world we live in now, buddy.
They go nuclear.
Instant gratification, and if you are not on the same page, you suck.
If I don't respond to them in time, if I don't get back to them, it's like, fuck this guy.
Yep.
They get that angry with me.
I hope you get hit by a car.
They want me to die if I don't respond.
All kinds of messed up stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm just completely baffled by that sort of response that I get sometimes. It's like, holy shit, what did I do to you?
Yeah. But you know, I've even told you this is the path you walk as a public figure. So
I know. I say that, Mike. You know, I say that like if I'm Mr. Victim, but you know that's not true.
No, of course not. But I mean, you're going to experience these sort of people.
I'm a bit of a shit stirrer, though. You know, in my own way.
Okay.
You just can't tell yet.
Okay.
It's very deceiving. But yes, they go nuclear, and it's so amusing to me. Sometimes it's just fun to troll people. Sometimes it's just fun to be a bit of a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's fun to be mean.
Suppose.
I think it is. Sometimes people need that sort of thing. Sometimes they need a good kick in the head.
I'll never understand that. I don't know. Maybe it's just not me.
Well, there are kids that weren't disciplined growing up either. Look how they turned out. Like that program director from Chicago, Mike. Like the random podcaster with 10 listeners out there that try to, get my attention and get me to engage in their nonsense.
I remember that.
That was a fun week.
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, I like that. But in other words, and I'm digressing here. But my anger towards that program director, I want to go back to that for a moment here. He's dead now. And he told me, Mike, that my excitement and my joy for this would eventually die down. And what I was experiencing here was just the quote unquote honeymoon phase, Mike.
How long ago did he say that?
That was about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah. See, some people just throw comments like that at you, not realizing that in some cases, if there is a person is determined enough, they can get to a level. I did it myself.
Yeah, you did.
Can't tell you how many people told me that I would never go anywhere with my band, but I did.
You experienced that too, Mike.
Yep.
But yeah, suffice to say, Mike,
and mind you, this was even before the whole internet thing.
Right. But suffice to say, Mike, that never happened to me. I never lost the drive. That honeymoon phase never faded away. That never happened to me, but it did for him. He did die off. He did die down.
Yeah.
His classic projections were just that, projections.
That's why you really can't call somebody out like that, because you really don't know what's going to happen. That's just a shitty thing to say to somebody.
And by the way, Mike, just to be diaphanously clear with you, and to my remaining enemies out there, you better hope and pray I don't come back from the afterlife. I will be like a poltergeist. A goddamn poltergeist, Mike. They better hope to die before I go.
Well, you'd probably want to be more of like a haunting. Poltergeists can be nice.
They can? I never knew that.
Yeah, well, poltergeist, the difference between a poltergeist and a ghost and a demon.
Well, then I'll come back as a demon and...
Come back as a demon.
Yes, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back as a demon, Mike, and haunt their lives, and I'm going to make them possibly maybe do something bad. I don't know, maybe kill a family member or two. I don't know.
Oh, jeez.
That might happen. I don't know.
Knocked off the air tonight.
That might happen, Mike.
Now, but poltergeists are facetious. Hauntings are more destructive, is from what I understand. And once you get into like the whole demon thing, demons are they're out to kill you. They're out to get you.
They're out to
watch
you sleep. They're there to watch you sleep at night, like Harvey Weinstein.
Or Santa Claus.
Or Santa, yeah. That works too. But yes, Mike, let's get into some listener emails here. We've got some praise and we've got some backlash, I believe. I like that. Let's hear what these high-pitched, mouth-breathing cucks have to say, Mike. Love that.
Yeah.
But again, at the same time, Mike, if it was all positive, then it wouldn't count for me.
It wouldn't be fun.
If they're not crying, then you're not doing it right.
Whoa. Think about that one.
That's right. So this is courtesy of michaeldeacon.com, posted, I believe, in the feedback section on the website. This comes in from first name blank, last name blank, and email, you guessed it, blank.
Mr. Blank.
Mr. Blank, he chimes in with, Mike Hideous is a dumb piece of shit. Read that on air.
Really? Does it say that?
It really does.
Wow. Well, thank you, blankety blank blank blank. I'm so glad that you were
Blank man.
brave enough. I'm so glad you were brave enough to stand up to me. Wow.
He stood up to you there. He told you.
Yeah, he is a tough guy behind that screen.
Blank man, but yes. Now that was rude. Short and sweet though, right to the point, no time wasted. It might be safe to say this person does not like you, Mike.
You think?
He's not going to be sending you a Christmas card this year.
And so he has to take the time out to write in and tell us
He's got to tell you.
I suck.
He's got to tell you. And maybe a bag of shit will be left outside your door, Mike.
Oh, great. If you could get into my community, I will, I'll give him $1. But listen, Mr. Blankety Blank Blank, not for nothing, but why don't you get a job or something, or maybe a hobby, and stop listening to the program if we don't turn you on? Or does he like you more than me, or am I just the asshole here?
It just says blank.
Okay. Well, you know what, Blankety Blank, thanks for nothing.
Good job though, Mike. I am proud of you.
Are you?
Oh yeah. I like the angry emails.
I don't care about people like that. Like I said, I've told you before, if they've got time to sit around and waste their time to talk about me or you or anybody else for that matter, really, dude, grow up, get a life, get a hobby, bake cakes, whatever. Yeah, bye-bye. Please don't listen anymore. If you don't like us, don't listen.
I flushed them away there for you.
You flushed away that blank?
Yes, and I'll give him one of these.
Can I have a couple of punches?
You want some punches?
A couple of punches.
I think we do have that for you. Let's see if we have that. This is
for you, Mr. Blankety Blank Blank.
By the way, during the interview with Michael Cremo, there were times where, I did want to play this for you, Mike. Do you hear that?
I sure do.
The birds?
I sure do.
I should have played that when you were talking to him.
Why?
The audience would have been like, what the hell's going on?
I was going to say the same thing. What the hell's going on?
Are they in the jungle? No, we're just in Mike's living room.
Yeah, right?
We're in the Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, my bird's going crazy down there now.
Is he okay? What's going on with him?
He's just, he hears, once we get towards the end of the show and you and I start talking a lot more, especially after an interview, he gets all excited.
Oh, does he?
He wants to know what the hell I'm doing.
He's all fired up.
He's all fired up.
I don't blame him.
10 to 12 at night.
I don't blame the little guy. That's for sure. But yes, Mike, it's been a fun night and we're not done yet. We are getting close though to the end. How sad, right? The end.
All things must end.
I know. Just when I was getting started here, Mike, I was having a good time talking to you on the program here, and I really didn't want to end the interview with Mr. Cremo. I've been excited all week for him. And then he left us early. I don't know if I'm going to make it tonight, Mike. I might need to call you later on.
Yeah, you could do that.
Might call you, and I need you to talk to me before I go to bed. Need you to maybe tuck me in.
Cry on my shoulder.
Might cry a little bit here tonight. I get a little sensitive every now and then.
You can tell me how stupid I am.
Yeah, I'll tell you how you're a dumb piece of shit tonight. Oh boy.
And I am really dumb. I don't know nothing.
You don't know anything.
I don't. I must be a real idiot. I don't know shit.
Yeah, don't worry, Mike.
I'm not. I'm really not.
I know, that's the fun part.
I could care less. I really could.
Don't
care
kill
less.
yourself tonight, Mike. Don't do it.
I'm not out to please anybody. I mean, you know.
Yes, because I mean, if you do kill yourself, you won't be able to hear this.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Gay.
Do you understand that?
That's right, Mike. You might miss that if you die.
Or China.
Or China. That's right.
China.
China.
China. China.
China.
You are fake news. You are fake news.
I do miss that, by the way.
Hey, did you see Biden fall down the Air Force One stairs?
Yes, I did see him fall.
He is losing it.
That had to hurt, by the way.
He did 3 times he went.
That had to hurt, though. That
Hell.
he broke his kneecap.
It was his lower shin.
He's like 90. He's gonna break his knee.
Yep.
Is he the oldest president we have right now?
He is the oldest president we have ever had in office, and he is the most senile we have ever had.
Poor Biden.
Yep.
I felt kind of sorry for him.
I no longer have any sympathy for the man. He has gone.
Even after he fell down, Mike, you don't feel bad for the old man?
No, I really don't care. He gaffes every day. Every time he talks, he has not had a press conference with the media. Talk about transparency. Bungle. He has done. He's destroying the whole situation at the border. I even saw something online the other day that said liberals are getting PO'd at his failure to make things happen, or shall I say, keep things in order.
Well, you can't keep the progressives happy. That's the problem.
Oh no, of course
they're never happy.
Never.
Their
whole life is just complaining.
Pretty much. And by the way, Asuka says Biden is going to break a hip. LOL.
Yeah.
He might.
It's gonna break a hip, and if it ain't there, it's gonna be in the bathtub.
I have to be honest with you, Mike. When I saw him fall down, I really did think of some of the things you were telling me about Kamala Harris, taking over if Biden drops dead.
There's no doubt.
I'm starting to believe he might drop dead.
Very possible.
He might drop dead, Mike.
I'm sure you've heard that she's already talking to heads of states like presidents and so on and so forth, that he's not. I mean, this guy. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, we'll see what happens. I'm very interested.
Yeah, we'll see. We will definitely see.
Oh yes, we will find out soon enough. And going back to the emails here, I lost my place.
Mike is an asshole.
Well, that was the first one.
Right, that's where you left off.
Yes, okay, so here is the next one. After that, Mike is what was that? What did he call you again?
A stupid asshole, I think he said.
Oh, he said you were a dumb piece of shit.
A dumb piece of shit. That's what it was. Okay.
Jesus. Had to play that for you there, but yes, Mike. The next one, I think there is a name here. This comes from Chris in Ohio. Hello to Chris out there. He chimed in with, "Hi, Michael and Mike. I dislike your show. It's toxic, and I am angry with the both of you. Do you think it's funny to make fun of people? I will listen again to see. I will listen again to see if you change your tune. Goodbye."
So, how many times have we said? In fact, forget me. You've been doing this show far longer than I've been part of it. How many times have you cracked on people?
All the time, every show.
All the time, right. My point exactly. So however long our friend from Ohio, or wherever he was.
Ohio is for lovers, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long he's been listening, but if you only just picked this up now, welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome to the show. Just like that.
Look, man. What's his name? What was his name?
That was Chris from Ohio. Yeah.
Listen, Chris. You got to know Michael. Michael's got a very,
Wow,
got a dark sense
I don't
of
like
humor.
your show. It's toxic.
Michael's got a dark sense of humor. I've got a dark sense of humor. And you know what we can do? We can both laugh at both ourselves and other people. We can laugh at ethnic jokes and not be insulted. That includes both Michael and I. Michael is Mexican American. I am Italian American. And both of us crack on each other all the time.
I think there's actually more going on with me than just one thing. That's why I say I'm a mutant of sorts, Mike. I'm not accepted by any race.
Okay, be that as it may.
And I feel, the feeling's neutral. I don't want to be a part of anyone's shit.
Sure, but the point is to be mature enough and
no, people aren't mature here though. That's the problem.
Right, but to be mature enough and confident enough that you can laugh at yourself. If you can't laugh at yourself, then obviously you've got an issue.
Yeah, he's in trouble.
You're going to go through life, like everybody's a bully against you. Come on, man.
Well, hopefully he contracts COVID. But yes, I apologize sincerely to poor Chris out there. He dislikes the show, he's upset, but he will continue to listen.
Right. Go figure.
I do think it's fun to make fun of everyone and to make fun of people.
Sure.
I love that. I even make fun of myself.
Show.
Right. I make fun of myself more so than anyone else, believe me.
Likewise.
There's
you got to.
Yeah, there's a lot more to me than what I share with the audience here. I don't think you need to know about all the good deeds I've done. Okay, you don't need to know that shit. I don't think most people want to hear that from me. They expect no safety nets here. They expect me to be unfiltered. They expect me to say that I'm going to be a demon in the afterlife to come and kill you. I mean, I'm going to say this shit, I'm going to say that I want you to listen to the show and drive off a cliff. That's what I want you to do. I'm going to say that kind of shit here.
Right, and that's what you've been doing. That's what I've been doing with you for the last year. And I again, it's all about fun and being able to, freedom of speech. We're not cracking, how many times have we said, either at the beginning of the show, during the show, or at the end of the show, we're having a laugh. It's a joke,
We're not supposed to laugh.
Apparently,
it's against the law.
In this day and age, it seems like so many people do not have a sense of humor, and they want to look at what they're. Now you got me started. This whole thing where they're cracking down, taking cartoons off of banning cartoons.
That's going too far, yeah.
It's just, come on, man, get a grip. Everybody's so sensitive. It's like you can't please anybody anymore. They're just so uptight. A ruler up their ass.
That's how it goes. You can't have fun anymore.
I'm having fun, Michael.
I can't have fun, Mike. I don't know what's going on. I try very hard here. I do my best, and people just shit all over me. I don't know. I think I might just kill myself.
Probably because you're Mexican.
It's probably because I'm Mexican. I'm just going to kill myself. This might be over. My life is over. It's going to end.
What's the term they go? Wetbacks? Wetbacks for Mexicans?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, right?
You should have called me that. I would have felt better. Now, Mike, I learned something very early on in life. I learned that not everyone thinks like me or feels the same way that I do. Me and you and listeners, we aren't always going to agree on things here in general and politically, but that's okay. That's okay. Right. Okay. I don't give a shit what you think about.
As long as it's respectfully accepted. I try to do my best to let people have their thoughts and their ideas and decisions, and as long as I can have mine, that's all.
I'm going to play the sad music again. Here we go. I'm getting addicted to that. I like the new piano song here. I mean, it's a good little riff there.
I thought it was new.
Yeah, that's a new one.
Mm-hmm.
But let me continue here. I do have more words to say, and I'll make it. I'll try my best here, Mike.
Okay.
Here we go. Ugh. So, Mike, oh, it's playing twice. Some reverb action there.
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay, here we go. Now I have it set right. So, Mike, I'm removed entirely from any political agenda. My life will never be controlled and dictated by any group. None of those things will improve my life in any way.
Absolutely.
Republican, Democrat, conservative, all of that shit. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. It's all bullshit. It's all there to control you and make you spend money on things you don't really want to spend money on. All these grifts that you see out there, and I enjoy talking about politics and religion and making fun of it. But, I don't allow these things to ruin the bigger picture for me. It's life. You have to enjoy it. You can't let these things distract you. Don't let the chaos of life distract any of you out there. If you at home are someone who has allowed these things to trouble you and it's caused you to act out, please remember that none of that shit matters. None of it is worth it. We all end up in the same place. And the music cut off. Son of a fucking bitch. There we go. So, Mike, don't let these things trouble you. We all end up in the same place when it's all said and done.
We all put our pants on one leg at a time.
One leg at a time. We all end up in the same place. We all die alone, Mike. We are born to die. That's all it is. We're born to die. We are born to die.
All headed to that great grave in the sky.
That was intense. That was pretty good, right?
It's a sympathy hour.
That was pretty good. I was just, went with the flow there.
Mm-hmm.
Good God. So, Mike, now we are headed towards the news segment of the show. Are you excited?
I am. You want to fill me in on this? What's going on?
We're going to read the news here, go into some current news as we wind down, Mike. That's what we do here on the program. The piano's still playing. Look at that. Oh, now it stopped. But yes, it's not official until we roll, the news segment, the news segment drop. Here we go, Mike. So yes, as we wind down, we've got some news to read here. Are you excited for this?
I am. I can barely contain myself.
I know it's official with the music.
Yeah, look at that. Looking all professional.
I'm ready. That's how we have it playing there.
Tonight on the Michael Deacon program, Michael reads the news on what's happening in the world right now.
News we give a shit about, yes. So, Mike, as we wind down, we have some stories here for you. Something that will put a smile on your face. Dan Bongino, your favorite, he will be apparently competing for Rush Limbaugh's spot there on that.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, good luck to him.
Yeah, Cumulus Media Westwood One, they said he's going to be doing a 3-hour radio program.
Well, good for him. I like Dan Bongino.
The same time slot that Limbaugh occupied before he croaked.
Come on, now that's talking bad about people.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I have sinned.
You heard what Ohio said.
That's right. So Limbaugh's show is syndicated to more than 600 markets, by the way, Mike.
Wow.
That's pretty big time.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty big time. Will you be listening to that, by the way?
I don't know. I never listened to Limbaugh because I didn't know what station he was on. And I don't know. I do like Dan Bongino when he fills in for Mark Levin. That's pretty much about the only radio show I listen to these days because I get the facts right from Levin.
I won't be listening.
I know you won't.
I don't need to hear that boring shit.
I know you will.
Conservative radio fucking sucks.
Can you tell us how you feel?
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Yeah, conservative radio is fucking awful.
It is.
Someone has to
I
say
agree.
that shit sucks, Mike.
That's
What a bore. Like, I want to listen to conservative radio like I want chlamydia. You will never get the actual truth from most of these shows, Mike, I have to say. You know, a lot of them are paid to say this shit.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say a lot of these people on the radio right now are phony. You know, they're only there because they get paid. They're paid to say this shit to you. Yeah, all these social influencers, it's all the same bullshit. They all get paid to say what they do.
I'm shocked.
I know. But their public opinions are much different than their private ones. That's why on the show you will actually get a host that's transparent and won't blow smoke up your ass. Well, unless you ask me to. But yeah, they all have a narrative and they all want you to go along with it, Mike. Without question. It's sad. Why would you listen to anything where that person is telling you how to live your life?
Well, are you asking me personally?
No, I'm just throwing that out there.
In general?
Yeah, I'm just saying, why would anyone want to listen to that and be told how to live their life? The same with like the Bible, for instance. You need a book to tell you how to live?
Right.
You're that much of a pussy? See what I did there? Got more people angry with me. That's how it's done. That's how it's done. So the entire left and right paradigm, it's the oldest hustle in today's modern history. It's all bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit, man.
Yeah, I tend to believe that's on both sides.
That's what I'm saying. The left and right paradigm is bullshit. Lilith in the chat says, it sounds like a skin disease. Right. But yes, Mike, crawling along the floor we go. We do have another clip to play here from our right-wing Christian friends.
Oh.
We like them.
Do we?
Yeah, they're losing their collective minds. But we're here to capture their fears one day at a time.
Good.
We really are. We're doing God's work here. This is God's work that we're doing here, and we will continue to do so. And I believe we have, yes, our first clip here. This is courtesy of Scott Lively, by the way. Scott Lively. He is known for his anti-LGBTQ stance, by the way, Mike.
Oh, probably gonna get like killed.
He's probably gonna get murdered soon. That's true.
Probably.
Yes, this
Scott does not like that.
Right. Scott Douglas Lively. That's his name. He's an American activist, author, attorney, so be careful.
Careful what you say.
Be careful what you say. We can't really make fun of him too much. We have to say, in our opinion.
In our opinion.
In our opinion, he's, a bit of a grifter, piece of shit. In our opinion. It's not a fact, so you can't get sued for that.
It's a joke.
It's just a joke. Well, am I joking? I don't know. Am I playing around? Am I joking? Who knows? Who gives a fuck?
Allegedly.
Who cares if we're not playing?
Allegedly.
But yes, he's actually, guess what, Mike? I didn't know this. He's actually based in California where I am. And he's
right by you?
Yeah, well, he lives in Temecula, I believe.
Okay, well, I don't even know where that is.
It's in California, but it's mostly, it's a very liberal place.
Okay.
So he needs to be careful out there. He did write a book called The Pink Swastikas.
Okay.
And I quote, while we cannot say that homosexuals caused the Holocaust, we must not ignore their central role in Nazism.
What?
Right.
What?
That's what he wrote. That's what he wrote.
Wait. Are you saying
that's what I'm saying?
Yes. You just said
yes.
That homosexuals were Nazis that caused the Holocaust?
That's what he claims in his book,
that
Pink
doesn't
Swastikas.
Even make sense.
That's what he wrote. Don't shoot me. I'm just a messenger.
I'm sure, but I mean, you agree with me, right? That makes no sense whatsoever.
To the myth of the pink triangle, the notion that all homosexuals in Nazi Germany were persecuted. We must respond with the reality of the pink swastika, end quote.
Okay.
I don't know what to make of that one either. He's quite, he's quite the character, to say the very least.
No kidding.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, let's get to the audio.
What the hell? All right, yeah, go ahead.
Well, he's not going to talk about that in the audio, bud.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I wish he was. We need to bring that guy on the show. Jesus Christ.
Imagine that. Yeah, okay, all right.
But by the way, I think I have a photo. I know you can't see it, but the chat can. Let me throw a photograph up of our friend. I think I have it somewhere here. Let's see. Oh, Scott, there he is. Now, Mike, you can't see this photograph here, but it's of him and he's wearing a suit. And basically, like, the background is like a rainbow sort of flag.
Oh.
So he's not going to like that. He will not like his image being surrounded by, you know, that flag. You know, he would call it a homosexual flag.
That F word
right
flag.
Right, he would not like that. He'd be very angry right now if he saw it. But yes, let's go to Exhibit A.
Righto.
Homosexuality is the extreme form of rebellion against God. It's in the list of Leviticus 18.
Oh
it's
my
verse
gosh.
22.
That's him.
It's the first time. Leviticus 18 is a list of the sins that are so grievous in the mind of God that they cause the land to vomit out the people. Right? The sin is so defiling and corrupting that the land itself literally vomits out the people, and the land has to be desolated because of the sins. It's in that list. It's only when it gets to homosexuality. A man shall not lie with a man as with a woman. It is an abomination. It's the first introduction of the term abomination, the harshest form of condemnation in the Hebrew language, in all of Scripture. And it's the first place that it's introduced in the list of things that are the most egregious. It's the ultimate form of rebellion against God. Male homosexuality.
Amazing.
Female homosexuality has its own problems, but it's male homosexuality. It's the ultimate form of rebellion against God.
Oh, shit.
And you know why he said that the females weren't as bad? Because it's hot when they do that.
Exactly. And looking at his face right now, Mike, he looks kind of like he might have engaged in homosexual activity in the past.
Well, now be careful what you say, because that's
in my opinion. In my opinion.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Oh, Mike, you didn't let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Listening to this guy and, judging by his photographs and, looking into his eyes right now, this guy no doubt has engaged, in my opinion, homosexual acts. I mean, I don't believe his act. I mean, the old man definitely has done some wild shit in his day. And now he feels bad for all the sins he's done. So that's why we have him here. He's a tortured soul, and he's so Christian. He's so Christian, he'll convert to being a Muslim soon enough, Mike. It's just a matter of time.
That's crazy.
It's always the most outspoken ones who always get busted, or they have a long history of this. So I'm not fooled by this man. I'm not fucking fooled by this guy.
I hear you. I know what you're saying.
He's not tricking me one bit.
You know what bothers me so much about a person like this, is that they talk about, look, you know as well.
He's in the closet, Mike. He's in the closet. That's all I'm saying.
Be that as it may, if it is true or not, I don't know. All I'm saying is, you know as well as I know, homosexuality has been going on since the dawn of
forever.
Time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make a difference what sexual deviancy that you're attracted to, whether
not at
it's
all.
Male, female, or God knows what. The point of the matter is, this guy is as along with so many other people who are anti-homosexual, they just take it to a level it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's homosexuality has been going on for as long as we can even understand it.
That's right. It's been going on forever.
Before it even had a name.
Even in nature, it happens.
Oh yeah,
which is,
no doubt.
you know, again, I'm not against it. I'm not for it. Different strokes for different folks. I'm not someone who would ever try to stop you from living your life or telling you how you should or shouldn't. I mean, that's all.
Precisely.
That's all your choice, and I'm all about choice.
That's right. Yeah, I've known plenty of gay people in my lifetime, and I've never had any issues with them if that's their I mean, again, I'm not into it, but I mean, if that's what they're into, hey, knock your sock off.
That's right. So I'm seeing this gentleman right here, Mike, just to finish it up. Again, I'm not fooled. You shouldn't be either. This is fun, right? Boys and girls, I like this.
Golly.
Let's keep it moving. The next victim. The next victim is Jack Hibbs, by the way. Good old Jack.
Jackie.
Good old Jackie. Yeah, let's get rid of this photo here. Yeah, I don't want to see his face anymore.
I don't blame you.
I don't want to see that dumb face. That disgusting look on that face.
In your opinion.
In my opinion, right. That's right. I don't want to see him. I don't want to even know he exists. Well, actually, he doesn't exist in my world. He's no one. He ain't shit. He's fucking no one in my world.
Yo.
You don't even exist in my world, you fucking, you know what?
In your opinion.
In my opinion. I can't say that word, so I didn't say it. That might get me shot, actually. It's not going to get me thrown off YouTube. It's going to get me killed. So yes, the next victim we have here is Mr. Jack Hibbs, and already he sounds like a child molester, in my opinion. So that's red flag number 1, Mike. With that name, you molested kids for a long time. In my opinion. In my opinion, yes. Let's be completely honest here. It's just my opinion. So now I can't get sued. That's how we play it. So yes, he's out of Chino Hills, California, Mike. And I've been to Chino Hills plenty of times. I stayed out there before. It's pretty expensive. So you got to have money to live out there. And this guy, he's got plenty of that.
Okay.
A lot of money, by the way. And I believe there was even a time when there's some sort of arrest of a man who was accused of embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars from that church.
Oh.
The Calvary Chapel Chino Hills Community Church. Yeah, so they arrested some guy and the FBI wasn't involved. You know, they investigated theft. That was reported. There was about $720,000 and $960,000 that was stolen over a couple years, Mike. So it tells me two things, Mike. Number 1, we are in the wrong business.
Yep.
Number 2, there was a lot more money than that. Jesus must be proud of our friend Jack Hibbs. He's got to be proud of him. And now let's play the audio here of Mr. Jack Hibbs, the man I said that looks like a child molester, in my opinion. In my opinion only. Don't repeat that. But if you want, you could cut clips of it and send it to him. That's okay. You could do that.
Yes.
I would laugh in the courtroom. Go ahead, do it.
Something has happened. I believe the answer is demonism.
Oh, by the way, Mike, let me backtrack. Let me set this up for you. I'm doing it wrong.
Okay.
This guy, Mr. Jack Hibbs, he claims to know the reason why that that there's transgenderism going on, that there's transgendered people. He knows the answer, Mike.
Of course. Why wouldn't he?
Yes, so he claims to know the real cause of transgenders. I think we sort of all have a bit of an understanding as to why some of these folks do these things, Mike. That he claims. And Mike, it has to do with Satanism, as you could probably have guessed.
Oh, of course.
So, Mike, are you transgendered, by the way? I'm just making sure.
Twice. I used to be a guy, then I was a girl, now I'm a guy again.
Oh, you're quite progressive then.
Yeah, well, I want to keep up with the times. I get bored.
You are keeping it updated, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, yes, let's hear him in all his glory.
Something has happened. I believe the answer is demonism.
Demonism.
I believe it's satanic. I believe we're watching a global event take place that the Bible warned us about all along. And Satan traffics in the world of confusion. And if he can get someone confused in this area, he robs them of their God-given gender because he made that person a male or a female for a purpose to bring him glory. If Satan can get them confused there, young, early, notice Satan always goes after the young. Then if he can't kill him in the womb, he'll kill him in the head and confuse them. I believe we're watching a global demonic sway of the wicked one upon our culture in the world. Right. And that sounds harsh.
Blame it on the devil.
But I'm sorry, it's true. It's just true.
Oh, it's true.
Oh, it's true. Of course it's true. Yeah, of course. In your mind, it's true. These people crack me up. They really crack me up.
And that was our friend, Pastor Jack Hibbs.
You know what these people are void of? Responsibility.
Morality.
They blame.
They lack moral. They lack a moral compass. They are self-important. They are lower than life. They take advantage of their flock. They're pieces of shit, in my opinion. Go ahead.
You know, it's these people who make these accusations and these fantastic comments about demons. I mean, really? I mean, well, you know what? I gotta say.
Well, that's why I say I'm going to come back as a demon to, haunt my enemies here.
You know as well as I know that if it wasn't for Lucifer, the church wouldn't be in business.
That's true. The Satan has kept the church running.
That's right. And they always got to use the whole Satan, Lucifer, demon thing as an excuse to explain things that they themselves are too ignorant to understand.
Well, that's right. You can't explain something, then it's God. You had a bad day, it's Satan. You had a good day, it's God.
Exactly. My point exactly.
It's gross, right?
It's sickening. It really is. Because, as I just said, it's just complete arrogance. Or I'm sorry, ignorance.
Ignorance, right.
A little both.
Maybe both, right? Yeah, because they're very arrogant with what shit comes out of their mouth.
Unbelievable. It really is.
Oh, God. And now we will finish up with Rand Paul versus Fauci here. They squared off for a few moments. I thought we could close the show with this audio clip. I thought it'd be pretty fun. But yes, Rand Paul, not like the old man. He doesn't have quite the charisma that his old man has for some odd reason.
So I've been told. I don't know who his old man was. I never really
Ron Paul?
knew him. Pardon?
Ron Paul, you're not familiar.
I know who Ron Paul is. I don't know who his father was.
Ron Paul is Rand Paul's. Rand. That's the son.
That's Junior.
Right. All I'm saying is that he just doesn't have the same charisma. I'm not sure why, and I say it every show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. The old man has something about him. He's got that James Bond sort of vibe going.
I never knew the old man.
Well, he's quite charismatic for being what he is. I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
But yes, let's hear them square off before we shut it down here, Mike.
Right on.
Here we go.
Dr. Fauci, in a recent British study, David Wiley and others found that no symptomatic reinfections from COVID-19 after following 2,800 patients for several months. In fact, there have been no reports of significant numbers of reinfections after acquiring COVID-19 naturally. Shane Crotty, a virologist at La Jolla Institute for Immunology, concludes from his experiments that the amount of immune memory gained from natural infection would likely prevent the vast majority of people from getting hospitalized disease, severe disease for many years. In this study, which was published in Science, Dr. Crotty showed that antibody levels stayed relatively constant with only modest declines over 6 to 8 months. Dr. Crotty reported that notably memory B cells specific for the spike protein or RBD were detected in almost all COVID-19 cases with no apparent half-life at 5 to 8 months after infection. In other words, Dr. Crotty found significant evidence of long-term immunity after COVID infection. Furthermore, Dr. Cruddy noted B-cell memory to some other infections has been observed for as long as 60-plus years after smallpox vaccination, or even 90 years after a natural infection with influenza. That was a woman who got the Spanish flu, still showed immunity 90 years later.
Oh, racist.
So rather than being pessimistic towards people gaining immunity after they've had COVID or had a vaccine, studies argue for significant optimism. In fact, there have been no scientific studies arguing or proving that infection with COVID does not create immunity. There have been no studies showing significant numbers of reinfections. Of the 30 million Americans who have had COVID, only a handful of reinfections have been discovered. In fact, the New York Times reported last fall more than 38 million people at the time worldwide had been infected with the coronavirus, and as of that date, fewer than 5 of these cases had been confirmed by scientists to be reinfections. Scientists interviewed for the article concluded, in most cases, a second bout with the virus produced milder symptoms or none at all. Given that no scientific studies have shown significant numbers of reinfections of patients previously infected or previously vaccinated, what specific studies do you cite to argue that the public should be wearing masks well into 2022?
It's a great question, by the way.
Oh, boy.
You went at him there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand the connection of what you're saying about masks and reinfection. We're talking about people who have never been infected before.
You're telling everybody to wear a mask, whether they've had an infection or a vaccine. What I'm saying is they have immunity, and everybody agrees they have immunity. What studies do you have that people that have had the vaccine or have had the infection are spreading the infection? If we're not spreading the infection, isn't it just theater?
No, it's
not.
not.
The vaccine and you're wearing 2 masks. Isn't that theater?
No, that's not. Here we go again with the theater. Let's get down to the facts.
Oh, shit.
Okay, the studies that you quote from Cruddy and Sete look at in vitro examination of memory immunity, which in their paper they specifically say this does not necessarily pertain to the actual protection. It's in vitro.
And what study can you point to that shows significant reinfection? There are no studies that show
Just let me finish the response to your question, if you please.
Oh, shit.
The other thing is that when you talk about reinfection and you don't keep in the concept of variants, that's an entirely different ballgame. That's a good reason for a mask. In the South African study conducted by J&J, they found that people who were infected with wild type and were exposed to the variant in South Africa, the 351, it was as if they had never been infected before. They had no protection. So when you talk about reinfection, you've got to make sure you're talking about wild type. I agree with you that you very likely would have protection from wild type for at least 6 months if you're infected. But we in our country now have variants that are circulating.
Significant reinfection. What study shows significant reinfection, hospitalization, and death after either natural infection or the vaccine? It doesn't exist. There is no evidence that there are significant reinfections after vaccine. In fact, I don't think we have a hospitalization in the United States after the 2-week period after the second vaccination. We don't have a death in the United States.
You're not hearing what I'm saying about variants. We're talking about wild type versus variants.
And what proof is there that there are significant reinfections with
At this point, I think Dr. Fauci wants to fight Rand Paul physically.
You know what?
He wants to beat his ass.
What, Mike? I'm sure you will agree with me.
And Rand Paul wants to hit him too. Go ahead, sorry.
I'm sure you will agree with me. It's about time somebody started asking these goddamn questions.
He went at him pretty hard there, didn't he?
Good. Because somebody needs to go after them hard, because nobody does. They only went after Trump. Nobody went after anybody else to get serious answers. Okay, now I'm calm.
You keep talking.
I'm good. I just had to say that. I'm so pissed that nobody asks questions like this, and finally they're doing it.
Right. No, it's true. That was pretty awesome.
Yep.
Pretty interesting. Let's continue. We only have a minute left of this clip, Mike. Let's finish it.
Hospitalizations and death from the variants. None in our country. Zero.
Well, because we don't have a prevalent of a variant yet. We're having one. Can I finish? We're having 117 that's becoming more dominant.
Policy based on conjecture.
No,
you have the.
It isn't based on conjecture.
Variants, so you want people to wear a mask for another couple years.
No,
you've been vaccinated and you parade around in 2 masks for show.
No,
you can't get it again.
Gosh,
There's virtually 0% chance you're going to get it, and yet you're telling people that have had the vaccine, who have immunity. You're defying everything we know about immunity by telling people to wear a mask who've been vaccinated. No. Instead, you should be saying there is no science to say we're going to have a problem from the large number of people being vaccinated. You want to get rid of vaccine hesitancy? Tell them they can quit wearing their mask after they get the vaccine. You want people to get the vaccine? Give them a reward instead of telling them that the nanny state's going to be there for 3 more years and you got to wear a mask forever. People don't want to hear it. There's no science behind it.
Well, let me just state for the record that masks are not theater. Masks are protective. And we
have immunity there, theater. If you already have immunity, you're wearing a mask to give comfort to others. You're not wearing a mask because of any science.
I totally disagree with you.
Well, he totally disagreed with them.
Respond so that we could understand the difference between the virus itself and the variants and the reason for a mask.
I'm sorry.
Shut your face. I don't want to hear any of you anymore. Tired of you people.
Oh my God. I really love that reporter, whoever he is. Thank you for asking a real friggin' question.
That was Rand Paul.
Oh, that was Rand Paul?
Yes, sir.
Bravo. Bravo.
Who still lacks the charisma that his old man has. But once again, that comes with age, in my opinion.
Oh, and you know what? Whatever. The fact is, he asked a good question.
It really was.
I really support him on that. Good for him.
It was. So, Mike, once again, I do want to thank you for being a part of the program. It's been fun. But now it's time we shut it down. Please feel free to add anything you'd like, Mike. It's always an honor and pleasure to have you here on the program. And I do want to thank you for being a part of the program. It was a fun night, and I loved having you on here, Mike.
Well, thank you, Michael. That's very kind of you to say, and you know I love being on the show with you, even though we're making fun of people and calling them names.
We're making fun of people.
In your opinion.
Oh, okay. Yes.
But no, seriously, thank you very much. I had a great night, as usual. I had a great time. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for the people who are listening tonight. No thanks to the people who hate me.
Yeah, no thanks to them.
No thanks to them. Stop listening to the show.
Don't listen.
Go elsewhere.
You're not allowed to listen anymore.
Go to an Antifa meeting. I would like to say, if you're interested in my music, you can check out my website, MikeHideous.com, MYKE hideous.com. If you're interested in the new band that I'm currently working with, Memento Morte.
How's that going, by the way?
It's going little by little. We're not pushing it because we really can't do anything, Michael. So we're just taking our time doing the music. We're not going to be playing any shows because, as Fauci just said, you got to wear 2 masks.
You got to wear 4 masks on stage.
Yeah, so everything's closed. No festivals, no theaters, no clubs, no concert halls. Nothing's open. So we're just taking our time. Nevertheless, if you're interested in that, just basic information, go to Memento Morte, MORTI, 777.com. If you're interested in my artwork, check out spymanphotoandart.com. And last but not least, if you'd like to reach out to me on Facebook, you can reach out to me at facebook.com/hideous Mike, MYKE. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening tonight. I had a great time, as always. Be safe, everyone.
You got it. Once again, thank you so much, Mike. We will talk again very soon.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Mahalo. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye-bye. And there he goes, boys and girls, the one and only Mr. Mike Hideous. Give him a round of applause for being on the program, as well as the first guest that was on the show, Mr. Michael Cremo. Yes, lots of Michaels indeed. It was a night full of Michaels. Philip says, who will be the next Michael they interview? That's a great question. But before I drift off here tonight, boys and girls, I do want to thank all of you out there for hanging out with us here tonight. Those of you who drank, those of you who smoked, those of you who did whatever it is that you consumed, whatever gimmick you took, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being a part of the program as well. Keep in mind, if you want additional content, bonus material, please go to patreon.com/Michael Deacon. Yes, lots of shows will be released there. For those of you who always bitch and moan and say, I want you to do more than just one show a week here. Well, if you join Patreon, you will get that. You definitely will. I will be doing more shows now, exclusively on Patreon. So go there. Don't just tell me that you love the show and all that bullshit. Prove it. Prove it. Patreon.com/ well, I shouldn't say /. I should just say Patreon/Michael Deacon. There we go. Or you can go to michaeldeacon.com. That also works. And Lilith, yes. PayPal, that also works. Yeah, I forgot all about that. PayPal.me/Michael Deacon. Right. Little by little, I've been recording shows, putting them out there. It's been going quite well. More shows will be added soon. Once again, much respect to all of you out there listening in live. And of course, those of you who tune into the podcast version of this program. And don't forget, those of you that are listening live, if you haven't subscribed yet, I think you should. You are screwing up if you haven't yet. But yes, take the show on the road with you just by searching Michael Deacon or the Michael Deacon program on all popular podcast platforms. Yes, lots of platforms out there. Just search my name and you will find me. I promise. Once again, I do want to thank everyone who helped contribute to the show. You know who you are. You know who you are. It's been fun, boys and girls. I had a ball with all of you. We shall rise again very soon and raise some hell. Stay safe, everyone, no matter where you are on this island Earth, reporting to you live from Hell Central, California, a place where you can go missing. That is true. I'm not joking. That's true. You can go missing out here. And with that said, the world is a mysterious place, and life itself is a mystery. Until next time, mahalo.
want to pinpoint it because, well, I think you kind of know the answer to that.
Paradox?
Yes, you discussed that with Goldberg, and he has a good finger on it.
Yes.
Hey, listen, also, beyond Von Daniken, pay attention to Whitley. Whitley is also not who he would appear to be. Be very careful of Dr. Hoagland. Hoagland has secrets. He knows things. And he hasn't even begun to indulge his treasure of secrets.
All right. I appreciate the call. No, Dr. Goldberg is not who he says he is. Whitley is not who he says he is. And watch out for Richard Hoagland. Earth changes, tsunamis for the Northwest sometime no later than August. Okay. Time Traveler line at area code 702-727-1295.
I didn't want to party anymore. I didn't want to play games anymore. I grew up. I'd already been in the fights, all the big rituals. I'd already had probably, I hate to brag, I'm not bragging, it's actually shameful, probably 150 women or more. That's conservative. I'd had over 150 women. I'd already been in fights with full-grown men. I was already dating college girls by the time I was 15 years old. I was already a man.
What are we going to learn today?
Well, today I'm going to teach you about spirit channeling.
What's spirit channeling?
Spirit channeling is what we call it when you go